Public Affairs programming on WQPT is brought to you by the Singh Group at Merrill Lynch, serving the wealth management needs of clients in the region for over 25 years.
Our economic well-being. What's the forecast for the year ahead? And going back in time to the 1500s and 1600s, when one of North America's biggest civilizations was just a few miles west of the cities. Next week, WQPT will air a documentary that brings back to life a Native American civilization virtually wiped off the map of Iowa and South Dakota. Why the Good Earth is a story well worth telling. But first, economic powerhouse. This week, business leaders came together to take the pulse of the economic health of the region. As industries are changing, as manufacturing in America is changing, and as unemployment rates are falling, what is needed to keep the economic catalysts in this area from going cold? Joining me are two people who are trying to put the pieces to that puzzle all together. Elizabeth Tallman is the Chief Economic Development Officer with the Quad Cities Chamber of Commerce. Ray Forsyth is the Moline City Planning and Development Director. Thank you both for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joe.
This is an annual meeting. It's usually the Chief Economic Forecaster for Deere that takes part in it. And I've always wanted to talk to you guys in regards to this. Whenever you have the state of the cities, and they're all going on right now, each of the mayors say the state of the city is good, it's going well. What do you say for the state of employment, the state of manufacturing, the state of business in the Quad Cities?
Things are going quite well. Yesterday we had the opportunity to actually have a panel of economic development directors sit in after the Deere's forecaster and talk a little bit about what they're doing in each of the communities. And it's really fascinating to see all of the growth that's occurring. As far as a regional perspective, our numbers are up in terms of activity, in terms of potential growth. We've had quite a few economic development deals in the last couple of years. And so things look pretty good. It was very encouraging to hear John Deere's economist say for the next couple of years, Deere is really looking positively in terms of growth.
Do you still look at what happened with keeping Kraft Foods partially in the Quad Cities? The fact that the Quad Cities, Davenport in particular, could have lost Kraft Heinz completely. I know it's a third of the workforce that was there, but it could have easily have moved to Missouri, except the Quad Cities was able to act very quickly in order to capture this business. I mean, is that the blueprint for exactly what you want to do?
That's exactly what we want to do, and that's a great story from the Kraft perspective. It came in as a business attraction project originally. Kraft was going to build a brand new high-tech facility somewhere in the United States, and we were competing. And then in the middle of the project, Kraft was bought out, and so they merged with Heinz, and 3G is a company that started to look at cost reductions throughout the country, and so it then became a business retention job. And so what we were able to do with the landing of that new tech facility was to show we had a certified site within our community, and so that was a big part of it. We were able to bring all the players together, put together a package that would help them quickly get in operation, but the big part of the project actually was our great workforce. We have a very highly productive workforce in the current Kraft facility, as well as a reputation nationally of having very good, high-quality workforce. So that really helped.
Well, and Ray, let me ask you that because, I mean, you must have companies that are at least contacting you all the time, at least with some interest in the Quad Cities. It's a kind of a two-point question. One is, it used to be the cities were pitted against each other.
Right.
Even the states were pitted against each other to get whoever you could get. And the second part of the question is, are you getting people knocking on the door constantly?
We are, and what's really interesting is, as a practitioner, and Liz and I talk about this a lot, each community has its own identity and personality, and in Moline, we're landlocked between the Rock and the Mississippi River, so our focus is really on retail, office, really high-tech jobs. We have Deere has their headquarters in Moline, so we have a lot of white-collar jobs, but they also have factories, and they just spend thousands and millions of dollars renovating their factories from top to bottom to make them state-of-the-art. So we're building the IH Mississippi Valley Credit Union just on the riverfront west of downtown. So we're really excited, east of downtown, really excited about that project. So we're seeing a lot of the white collar office jobs, working towards some projects out by the airport on the industrial park out there that we can then now attract some of these high-tech companies.
And that's the big thing. Not only the white-collar jobs, which are so critical to the economy, but also those high-tech jobs as well. And let's be honest, the small businesses that are starting up seem to be, the lifeblood of our communities.
Right, and our downtowns all over the Quad Cities are loaded with high-tech companies, software companies, advanced manufacturing, but also it's really cool. We have a company called Infosys, which is in the Kone Tower building. They're consultants that do work all over the country, and they're right there in that building, really good paying jobs.
Well, Liz, I mean, I think in some cases, as an economic developer in the Quad Cities, you might have been looking a little at Cedar Rapids and what they call that corridor up to Waterloo and down to Iowa City, and they were attracting companies left and right. A little jealousy there, or do we not have jealousy anymore?
No, because we have our own regional assets, and one of the things that on a national scale that we have that no one else has is the Manufacturing Innovation Hub. And what that is doing is putting us on the map in terms of providing that next generation of technology and manufacturing. And it's also helping us partner with our educational institutions as far as training our workforce to be able to handle those newer high-tech jobs. And so we are, as a matter of fact, competing quite well, not just in the Iowa and Illinois regions, but on a national scale.
And I think it's interesting because you did point out the partnership, especially with the areas of higher education, either the community colleges or the Western Augustana and St. Ambrose. That's really seemed to have been a critical component of this.
It is. The Quad Cities First, our economic development partnership, is made up of the public and private sector. And really, economic development is a team sport. We have to have education. We have to have the public sector. We need the CEOs from businesses. We need the utility companies. And so we're all able to come together, and really that's what landed, for example, the Kraft Heinz deal as well as Sterilite. It's having that leadership and partnership to keep everybody together. Everyone knows their role and knows what they need to do when it needs to be done.
Well, throughout the Quad Cities, we've also seen attempts at incubation, especially for small business. The Moline Lofts is kind of like that. The new venture in downtown Davenport was designed that way. Is that type of concept working?
It is, because it gives people a startup. And we had an event last night in Moline, the Ignite Quad Cities, and it was a highlight on Moline. And we had business, startup businesses that are in various stages. And it's really cool to see their stories and how they started out of their garage, or out of their basement. And there was the tailor was really interesting, because he talked about, he's a nonconformist, so he loved working out of his garage with his wife and his mother. And it's just really cool to see the stories, and these people are craving opportunities and be able to collaborate with other people. And those type of incubators help these people, they grow within themselves because they're feeding off each other, and just being able to hear stories and learn from others is really, really cool.
Well, I don't want to sound ridiculous, but these large metropolitan areas are trying to get these mega companies like Microsoft and Amazon headquarters and all these other things. What is the niche for the Quad Cities or a community like Moline? You're not going to get a huge manufacturer anymore. What is the best hope you get?
Well, I think that's really interesting, and Julie Forsyth and I, we've been going out on business retention visits with our existing industry, and they're all growing. They're bursting at the seams, desperate for employees. You talked about the unemployment rate being so low. We need welders and advanced manufacturing practitioners. And we were at McLaughlin Auto Body the other day, and they were talking about all these government contracts that they're working on and need employees, and they need really high-tech engineers. So we're going to be able to attract new workforce because we have job opportunities that aren't typical for a Midwestern community, because our manufacturing is so advanced and high tech.
Is the other big issue when it comes to a regional hub such as the Quad Cities is the healthcare industry? Because that had been a growing area, and I know a lot of people were targeting that. Is healthcare one of the major areas?
It's amazing, because in terms of our business attraction program, we target specific industries that make sense, in terms of primary jobs. Manufacturing is number one. The health industry is what we usually call a service-related industry, so it's not one that we're probably out there marketing or targeting, but we're seeing such a huge growth in that industry that I think it's one of those that we're going to have to start paying attention to, and especially I know with like the talent attraction and retention of, you know, doctors and nurses and that type of thing has become a big issue.
So what would be, like, if a person is thinking of going back to school, or if a person's getting out of college? We keep hearing that there's certain careers that will make the Quad Cities even stronger if you get
Yes.
involved in.
Well, you know, again, with our partnership with the higher education, they do what's called skill assessment studies every other year, and they look at what's emerging in terms of technology and jobs, and then they start looking at what kind of programs should they have to help address those shortages. And so I would say probably the first place I would go is I would go talk to Eastern Iowa Community College, or go talk to Black Hawk College, or Western Illinois, or one of the higher, you know, or St. Ambrose, or Augustana, because those folks have a really good handle on what's the growth opportunities in different professions.
And is the key to the Quad Cities, as well as Moline, is the key still diversification? Because, I mean,
Yes.
you went through the 70s and the
Yes.
80s.
Yes.
We know what happened with the
Yes.
farm economy.
Yes.
It now seems like we're more diversified than we were before.
We are, definitely, and in Moline, we focus on the diversity, not necessarily just in the manufacturing and industrial part, but if you look at our downtowns, we have really good daytime population with our office workers. We have restaurants and retail. We have tourism with the John Deere Pavilion and the riverfront. So we've diversified even the downtown, so that if one sector goes down, the rest of it balances it out. And you know, our third hotel just opened yesterday, the Element Hotel. We have a new Hilton coming in with Heart of America. So you know, we're trying to mix it up all over Moline so that we're not dependent on one industry like we used to be.
And does that seem to be working when people are coming in to take a look at the Quad Cities as a potential site, and they're seeing the progress in each of the downtowns,
Absolutely.
the vibrancy?
It is, and it's changing. When I was growing up, I'm a baby boomer, I went for the job. I didn't care where it was. The millennials want to live in a really cool place, and then they'll get a job. And we know we have the jobs, and now we know we're getting that cool factor because we've got a riverfront that's unparalleled in the country. We have great amenities downtown, and now with the new hotels and the downtown living in all of the cities in the Quad Cities, it's a really cool place to live. And so people are now coming because it's a cool place to live, and then they know they can get a job.
Well, I know that positioning the Quad Cities has been a major issue, of course, for the chambers of commerce, but this isn't a time where you're sitting on your laurels. I'd assume that anything, it's a very competitive market.
It's extremely competitive, and so what we're always trying to do is figure out what is that next generation of economic development? What should we be doing? You know, who should we be looking at? Who should we meet with? And it's really interesting too, one thing that Ray mentioned is the talent attraction piece. Now we deal with site consultants all over the country, and they're always helping us identify what are those top needs that a company needs to locate in a community or expand. And it's always been about, you know, business opportunities, you know, costs, blah, blah, blah. But the number one for the first time is talent, workforce. So if we can show that we have the workforce to meet their needs, and as well as our existing companies, I think that's where we're going to have the biggest benefit.
Workforce as well as some shovel-ready sites.
Correct, correct.
Because that has shown to be very successful.
Yes, and I think the fact that we had a certified site in August, and in September we landed the Kraft Heinz project because of a certified site. That's not the norm, but that shows why you do what you do in terms of having certified sites.
Good Boy Scout, be prepared. Right?
That's right.
Liz Tallman from the Quad City Chamber of Commerce, Ray Forsyth, City of Moline. Thank you both for
Thank
joining
you.
us. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Still ahead, the story of a community that lives on in memory only. We tell you about the good earth just ahead. But first, Laura Adams joins us with her weekly update events that may be of interest to you, your family, and your friends. Here's Laura, Out and About.
This is Out and About for February 19th through 25th. Hi, I'm Laura Adams. The RV and Camping Show is coming to the QCCA Expo Center February 23rd through 25th. It's offering a wide selection of new RVs and campers. The Quad City's newest boutique bridal expo, the Prestige Wedding Extravaganza, is coming to the Davenport Country Club February 24th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Quad City favorite and former Las Vegas magician David Cassis brings his award-winning magic show to Festival 56 in Princeton, Saturday, February 24th at 7:30 p.m. Two Rivers Church in Rock Island hosts their Lenten concert series, with Brett Dale and the River Music Experience Traveling Band February 21st. What happens when an overworked mother and her teenage daughter magically swap bodies? Find out at Circuit 21's musical Disney's Freaky Friday. February 24th is the date for the stand-up showcase at the Establishment Theater. MC Jeff Adamson welcomes you for a night of uncensored laughs. Evenings at Butterworth host Charlotte Blake Alston, who brings African customs and culture to life with her solo performance on the 23rd. The Quad City Symphony Youth Orchestra present their winter festival concert at Centennial Hall on the campus of Augustana College the 25th. Or join All You Care to Eat, a Comedy Thingy podcast, an uncensored monthly sketch comedy series performed in the style of a radio play taped before a live audience at the Black Box Theater February 24th. For more information, visit wqpt.org.
Thank you, Laura. David G. Smith is spending his time in Nashville these days, but the bluegrass native feels just at home here in the Quad Cities, particularly at the River Music Experience. We caught up with him as he performed The Edge on the community stage.
Matthew Wayne was forced to grow up long before his time. He's my son and was 8 years old when he nearly lost his life. Matthew and his mama would often drive into town. 7 miles of country road that boy won't travel now. His life could show a pretty face and turn an ugly head. Bring you to your knees and push you right up to the edge. Now the land on either side that old road is much the same. Cottonwood and a creek that winds fields of corn and hay. Matthew's mom had lived here on 27 years. This is where her heart belonged, and Matthew liked it here. Life show a pretty face and turn an ugly. Bring you to your knees and push you right onto the edge. Rain and fog one August day found them driving home when fate drove Matthew and his mom into a ditch. One slipped off, God rest her soul. One climbed back up to that road. Some days he's still walking away from the edge. His life is short
David G. Smith and The Edge. South Dakota created a new state park last year on hallowed land along the Big Sioux River, just across from the Iowa state line. But Good Earth State Park is more than just a nature preserve with hiking and kayaking. It's actually a piece of history that predates the white man's westward expansion. And joining us are documentarians Kelly and Tammy Rundle, and you can always watch their story of Good Earth this Tuesday at 7:30 on WQPT. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Tell me about Good Earth, because you hate to say that it's a civilization that's been forgotten, because for a group of people it is not forgotten in any way, shape, or form.
Right. For our Native friends, they remember by and large that this happened, but a lot of folks in general don't know about it. But around the year 1650, this would have been the largest city in what's now the United States, bypassing the small eastern cities of Boston and New York City, which would have been New Amsterdam in those days, by thousands. 6,000 to 10,000 people lived there off and on between 1500 and 1725.
And the story about the Good Earth is actually a story that was being told because of this new state park. South Dakota looked to you to come and create this, and it was quite a competition in order for you to actually get the job.
Yes, it was, I think we were competing with 32 other companies throughout the United States, Los Angeles and New York included in that. So when we were selected, or at least when we were competing, and we got the call that we had to go and pitch the story and meet with people, we were with 3 other companies, and we got the job. So it was wonderful.
Now, you had already done a documentary on the Iowa, and this almost is a natural progression for you, was it not?
Yes, it was. We worked on Lost Nation, the Iowa in 2007 is when we released it. And so we had a relationship with the Iowa tribes. And this story is about the Omaha, the Ponca, the Iowa, and the Oto. So we kind of had already worked at Blood Run, which is now called Good Earth, and we were aware of the story. We'd already had relationships with people, including Dale Henning, the lead archaeologist of the site. So we really had a head start, and it's been a wonderful experience for us.
Well, and Kelly, you're really kind of telling the story through the eyes of a grandfather passing down the legend to grandchildren, which is so much the Native American way. Is that kind of the way you saw it? Is that, and also, I got to add that the eagle views also is somewhat symbolic, it seems to me, as well.
Right. We had to figure out a way to tell the story, and along with our experience that we had working with Native people, we also, the park also liked our story, the way that we wanted to present it. But in our work as documentary filmmakers, Native or non-Native interviewees have so often said, I wish I had asked my parents or grandparents about thus and such.
How
and
true.
So in a way we're trying to promote that idea of passing knowledge back and forth, and the story certainly models that scenario, and that's the way we chose to tell the story as oral history, if you will, that's passed down.
Well, I thought it was interesting also is that it is through the eyes of a grandfather, but through the ears of a child, and in so many different ways. Like you said, you want to pass that on, but you also want this film to at least be relatable to children.
Yes, and the park asked us to target 4th and 5th graders as our primary audience, with the general audience being the secondary audience. So that's why you see a lot of kids in the film. That's why we're kind of hearing it in a way from a child's perspective, and seeing what the life of a child was like in 1650 here in the Americas.
Tammy, the videography is beautiful. I mean, the drone pictures, the scenery that you have, it's a beautiful area. Is that one of the things that you really wanted to underline in this documentary?
Oh, absolutely. When you go there, this is a sacred place to Native Americans. It's just lush with nature, and it's there are burial mounds there, there's a lot of history there, there are ancestors buried there. So it is a place that needs to be respected. But we were really fortunate to have such an exceptional nature cinematographer, Kevin Railsback, who did our nature footage and did a phenomenal job.
You do point out that it's such a precious area, and you want to preserve it. In some ways, you point out in the documentary that in ways it was destroyed when the westward expansion occurred, and the railroad may have crossed right through a crucial part of the Good Earth.
Yes. That is something we touch on in the film. It is an archaeological site, you know, where a lot of exploration had been done. I don't think they're going to be doing anything more there.
No, it'll be sort of non-destructive kinds of examinations and basically preservation of the site. It's incredible if you think about what it took to build those mounds, for example, and they can be farmed for over 100 years and yet still be visible. It was quite an undertaking, that city that was there at one time.
Were you surprised by the site yourself? I mean, you knew of it, but I mean, by being immersed in it, it's got to be somewhat changing on how your perspective is towards both the land and the people.
Well, maybe you're reminded of the impermanence of things that we build in a way, that nature can reclaim an area pretty quickly. But it is a special place, and I know there was at one point I turned back and I looked and I saw our native performers wearing traditional clothing and walking up the hillside, and just for a second, you know, you could remember what it must have been like back in those early days. And
that's a good point, Tammy, is that you wanted to make this as real as possible. This was as authentic as you could make it.
Yes, we did. We really consulted with the Native American representatives of each of the tribes. And you know, you don't have photographs from back at that time period. A lot of it is oral history and a lot of oral tradition passed down. So we don't have a clear view of what the wardrobe would have been, what they would have been wearing and that kind of thing. So we kind of had to take a guess on that. But yes, we were really trying very hard to be as accurate as we possibly could in portraying that time period.
And Kelly, what do you want the viewer to walk away from? I mean, when they see this on WQPT, or when they go down to Good Earth and see it at the Welcome Center, thanks to you and your hard work, what do you want the viewer to, you know, walk away with?
I think just a sense that maybe there's a myth that Native people were sort of camping here in the Americas when our European ancestors arrived, and they were living here, and they were living in ways that changed the environment. They manipulated the environment, they built things, they had a significant and a vibrant culture here. And so the site was a big trading site, and we talk about pipestone being traded and bison hides, but also culture being traded between the tribes who lived there and who visited there. It was part of a significant native trading network in the Americas.
Fourth Wall Films. Kelly and Tammy Rundle, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We do want to let you know that it is airing once again, The Good Earth: Awakening the Silent City, Tuesday at 7:30 on WQPT. Watch it with your family. You'll learn something too. WQPT's wildly popular Imagination Station is just days away. It's the biggest event of the year, but it's also one of the toughest tickets to get. Registration for free tickets actually starts Thursday, March 1st at 8 in the morning. In years past, the tickets are gone within a few hours. This year's Imagination Station is being held Saturday, March 17th at Western Illinois University's Quad Cities. On the air, on the radio, on the web, and on your mobile device, thanks for taking some time to join us as we talk about the issues on the cities.
Public Affairs programming on WQPT is brought to you by the Sing Group at Merrill Lynch, serving the wealth management needs of clients in the region for over 25 years.